Hi, everyone. I'm Alexis Williams, co-founder of Business Skills for Health Professionals, and welcome to the Beyond Clinical podcast. In this podcast, we'll be interviewing health professionals from diverse backgrounds who've moved into unconventional roles beyond clinical. We'll be hearing their stories and tips and hope that this inspires you to pursue unique career paths. So today is episode 19 of the podcast, and I'd love to introduce my guest, Evita Basilio. Evita, can you say hello to the audience?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on, Alexis. And thanks for anyone who's listening or watching for giving me space in your day.
Yeah, thank you so much for being a guest. So I just want to share a little bit about your background. Evita Basilio is a registered dietitian who currently manages nutrition content and partnerships at That Clean Life and Practice Better. She spent several years in community and acute care clinical settings before entering health technology. Outside of work, Evita's focus is on increasing access to nutritious, sustainable, and culturally appropriate food and continuing the work to increase inclusivity within the field of nutrition. Evita hosts health workshops alongside diverse practitioners, teaches community cooking classes, and mentors BIPOC nutrition students. So, yeah, welcome to the podcast. I'm really excited to hear all about how you got to where you are and what you're doing now. A lot of people are really interested in the health tech space. That's probably like the most popular area right now,
Yeah.
that clients and just a lot of interest in that area. So, I'd love to hear about that. But before we jump in, I just kind of wanted to
Mm.
ask you a fun question to start off. Is there something that you're into from a health and wellness perspective, like any health and wellness trends that you're enjoying at the
Mm.
moment that you can share with us?
Yeah, I also realize my bio is like really also focused on what I do outside of health technology. And so maybe I'll play into that for the health and wellness trend, which,
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure if it's a trend, but I think people are really concerned or interested now in where they put their dollars and who they support for purchasing their foods
Mm,
currently more than ever. And
yes.
so I'll jump on that health and wellness trend of being part of that cohort of Canadians who are really looking to support local and independent grocers and
Mhm.
buying into co-op stores and purchasing CSA boxes like the Good Food box. So like we're 1 month into a Canadian boycott of some pretty big grocery store giants due to like
Mm.
soaring grocery prices and record high profits during a cost of living crisis. So a part of a trend that I'm really diving into now is making sure of as well of like supporting those community initiatives to make sure anyone who wants to be part of that has that support. So like community fridges and buying into those co-op stores. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
A
great
very,
one.
but kind of a different trend, I'd say. But I
Well,
think it
I would,
affects
it feels like
our
not
health and
really a
wellness.
trend as much as like a movement and something that's just so
Yes.
important to, some of the things that you believe in and support. Yeah, I've recently gotten into the CSA. Well, it's kind of different actually. It's more of like a produce box, um, that one of my friends goes to the produce terminal and curates for local people in the neighborhood, but it's been really cool. Just like supporting
That's
a smaller
fantastic.
local business, for
Yeah.
and getting produce every week that's gorgeous and delicious. So yeah, love it.
Yeah, it's a win-win because you get to, yeah, like support local, get good produce, and then just increase the options for people the more that we buy into to like different boxes and allow our local folks to grow, then it
Yeah,
can change the landscape of our purchasing for food.
absolutely. Yeah, lots of
Yeah.
great options out there. Love it. Yeah, like maybe just tell us a little bit about your career journey then. I know you said you wanted to dive into that a little bit more, so love to hear that.
Yes. So right now I work in health technology, but it was kind of a path to get there, which I think, every day I'm still figuring out what I want to do when I grow up. And I joke about that.
Me too.
Yeah. And that's the joy of dietetics is that, when we went to school, it felt so limited of the options
Hmm.
that were available. And now, like you mentioned, so many folks are interested in health technology because it just wasn't something that was mentioned. Um,
No.
Back in the day, I'm aging myself, but so I went to school in like Wolfville, Nova Scotia at Acadia, so fairly like a rural community
Yeah.
program. But I actually moved to Nova Scotia for university from Dubai. So I grew up between the Middle East and India, came to Canada for school. I had no idea what the nutrition landscape was like here, whether I even wanted to be a dietitian, what area of nutrition I wanted to go into. So Acadia really set me up for that. It's a small school, very hands-on professors, and they helped mold my ideas of where I would end up. So after university for my undergrad, I went to Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly Ryerson University, for my professional master's diploma in dietetics. So that was for my internship. But throughout school at Acadia, I again wanted to figure out what I wanted to do, but I didn't have contacts in Canada. So like a lot of folks have like volunteer gigs maybe that they're focused on, or areas in Canada they wanted to live in, or connections within the field. But
Mm.
starting from scratch was actually a great way to do it.
Mm.
Where as soon as I started university, I was like emailing every possible field and nutrition professional all across Canada to get experience, specifically work experience
Hmm.
in nutrition too. We focus a lot on volunteer experience, but that's not accessible for a lot of people,
Yeah.
especially students.
Hmm.
International student fees are crazy high. And so my first summer that I was in university, I worked at the Alberta Canola Producers Commission in Edmonton, Alberta. So I worked in agriculture, community nutrition, working in marketing and working. It was very cool. Like Middle East desert kid got to be in like the canola fields and like
Yeah. Super
work with
cool.
farmers. Yeah. And so I got a lot of experience there in understanding different areas of dietetics within the agriculture, community nutrition, and business side of that. So working within like a government funded organization. Then summers after that, I worked in like a flaxseed oil private company in BC. And then
Mm.
close to the end of my degree, I realized I had like no clinical experience, which you typically kind of need to get an internship.
Right.
So, so I ended up going to work at a long-term care facility for one summer in Glace Bay in Cape Breton,
Oh,
Nova
yeah.
Scotia. So again, like another rural
You
town.
were all over Canada.
I was I was truly like pounding the pavement trying to
That's
get some
awesome.
experiences. And again, my university professors like really helped push me to figure where I wanted to end up. So it was never a focus on like, hey, you need to end up in clinical or you need to do
Hmm.
this. Like the school, and I say this because I'm really grateful for those experiences where people said like you can do whatever you want in nutrition.
Hmm.
And but during those experiences I kind of like was seeing the gaps in health technology. So this
Hmm.
was always like at the back of my mind that working in a lot of facilities you see like outdated technology and how
Yes.
much it like it hinders efficiency. It impacts client care and burnout within the field.
Mm.
So I did my internship at St. Michael's Hospital in downtown Toronto. After university, that's where I also did my program with TMU. And once I graduated, I went into clinical because that's kind of what you do. So I worked
Hmm.
at a private clinic in Edmonton as I moved back from Toronto to Edmonton. And within probably, I'd say 3 months, I like again this like thought at the back of my mind that I feel like I need to test out working in health tech. So I
Mm.
worked for a nutrition and fitness app in
Okay.
Edmonton, like really from the ground up. It was a startup which was looking to work more B2C, so business to work to selling to clients. And I
Hmm.
worked there for about a year and a half, and it really opened my eyes to startup life, which is the coolest hands-on experience. I worked as a dietitian, but I did marketing, sales, business development, product development,
Mm.
working alongside like mathematicians, personal trainers, the co-founders of the company.
Hmm.
And the product itself didn't quite work out. And so about a year and a half into that, I moved back into the clinical world. I missed like that client care experience. I felt like I needed to understand the client experience a little bit more before I went back into the health tech space. So when I moved back to Toronto, worked at St. Michael's Hospital for a couple of years, and I got to work in areas like inpatient and outpatient, acute mental health, general internal medicine, HIV client care, kidney, cardiac, all of the
Wow.
areas for a couple of years, yeah. And also managed the farmers market work and research. And all of those experiences led me to working at That Clean Life, which I'm
Mm.
so grateful for. Somewhere during the pandemic, I had seen That Clean Life had posted about, like a nutrition software, and they were seeking a dietitian on just a contract basis. So I had joined on a 6-month contract, absolutely loved it, stayed on, went full time, and 3 years later, last year, last July, August, That Clean Life was acquired by Practice Better, which is an all-in-one practice management solution for health and wellness professionals. And so That Clean Life and Practice Better now integrated, now one company. And so I'm the nutrition content and partnerships manager at Practice Better and That Clean Life.
Wow. Such a cool experience. And I think some of the things that really are exciting about that, like being part of a startup. I
Mhm.
actually hear from a lot of people, they're very nervous about that because there is a level of risk sometimes with joining a startup. But good for you. I think that, like you said, you just get so much broad exposure to the whole picture, like all the areas of business that you mentioned. So I think that's
Yeah.
really interesting. And then also going through like an acquisition is a huge experience too, and just like all the things that happen when that happens, like those are some really amazing experiences that you've had. So I wonder like what kind of things you've found kind of transferable from like, because you've done the clinical and you've done kind of more business, now you're in kind of a business role, like what kind of things have transferred well?
I think the most important things is like adaptability and flexibility, and then just this like openness to learning. It can
Hmm.
be, like you said, very intimidating and daunting to go into like the startup world or even the business world. When I like doing my program at Acadia and at TMU, it was so focused on community and clinical. I don't think I learned like a single business or marketing or
Hmm.
sales concept during my time there. And so it can feel like you don't belong in this space, but it's a very welcoming space. And health tech, they are desperately seeking health professionals to join because you won't need to leverage that experience and that knowledge as a health professional. The rest can all be learned. I remember
Hmm.
too, when I went into the St. Michael's dietetic internship program, and I was in a cohort of like absolutely brilliant, excellent other students who had such vast clinical knowledge that I did not have. And I said to the internship coordinator, I'm like, why am I here? I shouldn't have been picked for this internship. And she said, like, it's not about what you know and how much knowledge you have about a particular area. It's about who you are and where you want to be. And I've taken
Hmm.
that through my career of when I go into a role, it's like going in with this curiosity, this openness to adapt and to be flexible and to learn on your own time, to ask questions and to like find your place within an organization or within an area. And so I think those are the most important skills or traits that I would recommend practitioners take with them, and just like have fun with it. Working in
Hmm.
health tech is like, it's such a creative and innovative space, which can be quite difficult, or not difficult, different from other areas of dietetics. Because
Hmm.
when you like, even my role at Practice Better and at That Clean Life, it's truly evolving on a month-to-month basis.
Yeah.
And the reason it's evolving is based on how the business grows, but also on what I'm seeking out of the work. They in
Hmm.
health tech, they truly want the practitioners or the employees to contribute in a way that's organic and plays to your strengths. And so as you grow in the company, you let your managers, you let leadership know what you're interested in, what areas you're interested in, and what role you can play, and your role can evolve accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like there's a lot of opportunity. And this kind of touches to my next question a little bit to like network internally because it's small in a sense and
Yeah.
like try new things, make it known what you're looking for, which is actually something that a lot of people don't think to do. Like, and I talk about this in the context of leadership a lot. Like, you should be asking people you're leading, like, what do you want to do? What skills do you want to gain as a leader? And sometimes that's just not happening. And it can really stifle someone's career growth. So I'm really glad that I like what you said, that that's happening for you. That's so important to make it known. But yeah, and you touched a little bit on external networking kind of when you were in school and you were, reaching out to people in different industries in Canada. But do you have anything more to add around kind of the journey of like networking, both internally and externally?
Yeah, probably not the best at networking. It's maybe happened either organically or just out of curiosity. And maybe that is the best way to network,
Yeah.
like messaging people like cold calling on LinkedIn messages. They can often be, you can kind of tell when someone is just looking to get into a job or looking to like have a conversation, but they're maybe not as interested in your area, didn't even like look up what you're doing.
Mm,
And so I think what's worked out well for me is networking, not just within nutrition and dietetics, but across many fields and like understanding what folks in other organizations are doing in like various roles. So before I actually went into health tech, I wanted to understand more of like the web development and coding side of things. And so networking with organizations and folk like engineers and developers within courses like Juno College based in Toronto is I did courses with them to understand like just about like coding and web development. And that
mm,
helped me like get an idea of where nutrition plays into things. So outside of our area, and then within nutrition, um, podcasts are always like a good idea of who is doing different things in spaces, and so reaching out to folks and like learning more about their area. And then I'm very grateful within That Clean Life and within Practice Better too, is our customer base is high performance health and wellness professionals. And so
hmm.
I'm constantly talking to practitioners in the field and like learning so much about what each practitioner is doing. And so it's not necessarily networking, but I'm having these really insightful conversations with people on a day-to-day basis. I just chatted with a RD team based in the States they work with athletes, and they've gotten
Mm.
like personal trainers on board, but also nutrition psychologists. And so I'm just like opened up to this world
Wow.
today now about like how the way sports nutrition is changing. And so I'd say if someone is interested in an area, reach out, but do it in a really like organic way where you
Hmm.
genuinely want to learn about the experiences. I get like, for example, I get a lot of like LinkedIn messages just being like, I want to work at Practice Better. Can you talk to me? And it's like, no, that's
Yeah.
tell me a little bit more. So genuine interest, organic, has I think has like benefited me throughout my career of because too when a lot of this is specific to the health and tech space or just maybe like the private space or corporate business world is a lot of the times when you are hiring, you'll start to think about the people that you had recent conversations with or the people that you did network with or who reached out. So those are top of mind. You're like, oh, actually, I do know someone for that job. And
Hmm.
so highly encourage folks to have those conversations, especially if you want to get into health tech. You will be top of mind for folks then when hiring comes around.
Yeah. No, I think that's great for people to reflect on and think about like when you're reaching out to someone, how can you make it like a valuable conversation for them,
Yeah.
as well as yourself, but also like genuine interest and curiosity and make it a more meaningful connection. Because you're right, like that's how people land roles is through making connections these days. Like applying blindly is really tough. There's like hundreds of applicants, I'm sure, for every role that you guys post and many companies post. So I think that is very important, to consider when you're kind of like embarking on a career journey.
So important, especially when in health technology, these roles are remote. So we're
Mm,
hiring across Canada and sometimes even across the States. Some of our postings are worldwide. We
right.
folks like in different countries. And so the candidate pool is just vast.
Yeah.
So to make yourself stand out, definitely like networking can play a key role in that. And as a nutrition practitioner, like leaning on so many of your other skills that you have and showcasing that, because in health technology, they're really looking for like well-rounded folks who are interested in that space and not just coming at it from a nutrition lens. So if you're interested in other areas, like let it be stated,
Yeah.
and you will definitely find a position in it then.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's important to like reach out, learn new fields, like you said, coding and even like marketing is the one that I find a lot of
Yes.
people um like can really learn a lot as a health professional getting into marketing. It's such a big part of what we do. And
Mhm.
sales, like I always am talking about the value of feeling comfortable and getting comfortable in kind of a selling role. But if you think about sales, like it is really about looking at customer need and
Mhm.
building and creating something that aligns to that, which is exactly what you do as a health professional when you're in a clinical setting, like you're trying to
Yeah.
create programs and services that help meet customer needs. So I think sometimes we get caught up on that word.
Yeah, and I think like even like sales, marketing, business development, there's some cringe associated with it. You
Yes.
gotta like think of folks as like really like pushing products that
Yeah.
and or items that you don't believe in, and this is not true. So in any space that you work, especially as a nutrition professional, you're staying in scope of practice, but like you have to believe in the product that you are
Yeah.
offering. And so even, with Dathlean Life, when I do demo calls or to chat with RD teams, if it's not the right fit for them, I say it's not the right fit and you should not
Yeah.
purchase this. And if it is, give them options. And so that's a big piece to off sales is you are not selling for the sake of selling. You
Hmm.
are like, just as with clients, you are only offering solutions that you think will be beneficial to them.
For
And so in
sure.
this space, it's the exact same way. Same with marketing and with business development. You're coming from at it from a very like genuine lens. And that's a superpower for health professionals too,
Yeah.
because we do have that validity in the space. People trust
Hmm.
us. And so we have to always remember that and keep that front of mind that we are only promoting products or software solutions or with clients food guidance and nutrition guidance that is beneficial to
Hmm.
the person and to the public.
Yeah.
So
No, that's
take away
great.
that cringe lens. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. There's a great book actually called To Sell is Human
Mm.
by Daniel Pink. I often recommend it, but it talks a lot about just this whole area if people are interested in that. So, but yeah, you've touched a little bit on some of the things you sought out and learned, kind of going from like clinical into more like a business role. You talked about the coding. Is there anything else that kind of you leaned into learning more about to help with that transition?
Yeah, definitely that coding piece, not a requirement. That was more of just like
No.
an interest of mine,
Yeah.
but it really helped me, especially as my first startup that I worked in. We were a very tiny team, and the developers would say like, as like the dietitian, like how do you want to see the guidance that you want to give? What does that look like? And now
Hmm.
in order to communicate, you're truly speaking different languages. So if you can either draft up a code or use a certain software. You can even use like simple things like Google Sheets or Excel to be able to like put in formulas to vocalize or demonstrate your ideas. It's so beneficial to the team. So I think that is a big part of it is understanding processes. Just being open to learning new technologies, I think is extremely important because no matter what type of, whether it's a business organization or in health technology, you're using so many software applications. And so
Yeah.
just as you would in clinical, where you might be using a software for charting and for tracking certain items in the same way you would be in a health tech company for communication and for project management. So being open to different technologies, that's an important skill. I think something that I worked on and I continue to work on is really like taking courses to things like marketing sales,
Hmm.
business development, to see new ways that people are doing things, and like that constant just development. Creativity and innovation to me is just very important. And so having my eyes and ears in different spaces within the health and wellness space, so that
Hmm.
I see what other software applications are doing, what other nutrition practitioners are using, and this can help me like guide product and development and project management at the company I work for.
Yeah, another thing that when you talked about learning the coding that kind of popped into mind is when you learn, like if you have a lot of people that you're working with that are specialized in a certain area, it can be so beneficial to like learn to speak their language, and just learn like what it is they do so that you can connect with them on a different level than maybe if you have no idea what they're doing. So I think there's a lot of value in that, like learning about different teams that you're working alongside with so you can just make that connection a lot more easily.
Yeah, it's like in a lot of like just as you would in a hospital when you work with different
Yeah.
professionals and you like learn to speak their language and learn like
Hmm.
their protocols and tools that they use. Cross team communication is so important. And if you want to see like the really fun thing about working in health technology, and it's my favorite thing, is that you can have an idea and you can take it to execution. Like you take it all the
Hmm.
way. You are constantly getting to have that autonomy in your space, and also be able to create parts of the product that you really believe in. But
Hmm.
you need lots of teams to get involved in order to
Yeah.
bring your idea to fruition. And so, like you said, if you can speak the language, even simple things like um, just understanding the tools that they use and
Hmm.
where you can come into play to help that make that easier. So for
Hmm.
example, if it's like you want to run a campaign for a certain item and you need to use like HubSpot for your marketing and you need to use
Hmm.
another tool to create the content, having an idea of what those tools are, where you can contribute to that, will just make it so much easier and bring that collaborative piece in.
Yeah, and it probably also helps knowing how big your ask is by knowing a little bit about what it takes to execute some of these great ideas that you have. It allows you to kind of go, okay, yeah, actually, that idea is a massive ask. Whereas this one, maybe I can pare it down into like smaller subsets so it's not as overwhelming.
Yeah,
But yeah.
organization and project management is huge because like you just said, when you put something out there, you need to be putting in like what that ask is,
Hmm.
how long it's going to take to launch.
Yeah.
So really like it's a very like different way of looking at things entering the health tech space. You definitely have to be like a big picture thinker and then hone in on the
Yeah.
details after in order to put together a project plan. But so fun and so important to like I think the collaborative piece is it's unmatched for other areas that I found that I've worked in.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you shared a little bit about what you love about it. Is there anything else you love about your current job?
The people. So it's again, we're in that growth stage at Practice Better and at That Clean Life. So we're really growing quickly with our team and with our launches and with our revenue. And so it's a really exciting stage, but the people are so collaborative. There's not really a hierarchy. We kind of all just work together. And again, like the cross team organization is so beautifully entwined together. I found that when I worked in other places, you're kind of like in your niche and and you kind of stick to that.
Hmm.
Where I think it's really fun in health technology, where you get to try different things, you get to work with different people who, again, are all very interested in the creativity piece and the innovation and creating a product that in the end is beneficial to the client. So we're constantly speaking to our customers and to understanding their client needs to really build a robust all-in-one platform that is everything that our practitioners want and need. And
Hmm.
so getting to work on that is just it's empowering. A big piece that I missed that I love about clinical work is the end client, of course. You get to see them
Hmm.
make immense changes in their lives, and you get to see their health conditions and medical states improve. And so I thought leaving that and working in health technology would mean my impact for those clients would be lost. And it's quite the opposite, is I get to work with thousands of health practitioners to now make their practice so much more efficient, improve workflows, improve client care, improve their programs and protocols, and then in the end get to hear about their client results
Hmm.
and their client outcomes. And so that's another big favorite piece of my job. I like work with thousands of dietitians and nutritionists and physicians and nurse practitioners and just folks in the folks in the health and wellness space that the impact is so much bigger, and it's really beautiful to see.
Yeah, for sure. That's so cool. Yeah, I think a lot of us can really get excited about those impact projects or impact solutions that just can benefit a large number of people. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
What are some areas in your own career that you're kind of working on at the moment, like for your own development?
Yeah, for my own development, kind of like a little bit outside of work is like I'm taking an illustration course right now.
Oh, cool.
Is yeah, I am like something that I really love is art
Mm,
and painting, and so taking an illustrative course because I want to like so different ways of communicating nutrition is interesting to me, whether that's like
hmm.
visual or through audio or through writing, and so illustration to see how can we communicate. We're in this like visual trend or movement now through social
Hmm.
media, and thinking how do we move that back into like books, but in a more exciting and interesting way.
Mm,
So not quite career growth, I'd say, but
pretty
definitely
cool.
like something, yeah, like something on the side that keeps when you take like courses, even if they're not completely relevant to your area
Hmm.
or to your business or to your career, you'll find that they influence
Yeah.
different aspects anyway. Or one thing that things that you could be like learning on the side will eventually
Hmm.
bleed into your work in really impactful and insightful ways. Like whether you're learning on the side of could be like any topics related to not necessarily business, but even if you're interested in like indigenous history or other food movements, it'll eventually bleed in. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think like anything you do personally, professionally is always beneficial. And yeah, it might not have like a direct impact on maybe your job at the moment, but it can sometimes open up a door in the future for something you hadn't even thought about. So I love that. And I think it's really good to stretch different sides of your skills too, like creative, um,
Yeah,
like physical sometimes, like just pushing yourself kind of in different areas a little bit can be really eye-opening and valuable.
absolutely.
Um, yeah, if there's one thing you could share with your early career self, so when you were starting out in the field, like what would it
Mhm.
be?
It would probably be to speak up always. Is
Mm,
when you're starting out, you feel like, oh, I'm so green, I'm like new, I'm like fresh. I don't you're amongst folks who are just like so experienced that you can tend to be a bit quieter and not speak up as much. But I think having new voices in any area on any team is so much better. and
yeah.
and I love talking to like nutrition students or new graduates. They coming in with so many new and often better perspectives, like changing the way things have been done. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, speaking up always, I found that that's been really helpful especially when I worked in clinical and I had ideas and bringing those to the table and bringing those to leadership and actually seeing things get pushed through and old ways of thinking be changed was exciting. And then that really helped me move into the health tech space as well because I saw where the inefficiencies were and where I could make a direct impact. And I continue to do that every day in my workplace of not being afraid to voice my thoughts and my opinions.
Yeah, that's so important. That's awesome. Any final words of advice to listeners who are kind of interested in finding like a career in a different field or health tech or in that space.
Yeah, just like follow, like, a simple one, but like listen to your gut, follow your intuition. Don't listen to the haters, I'd say. So when I was at school at Acadia and I wanted to do my internship in Toronto and go to TMU, I think like most of my professors and like most of the other students said like you're not gonna get in. Don't even bother.
Mm,
Because back then you could only choose three internship
right.
programs. I know it's different now. And so they were like, don't waste a choice
Mm,
on that's which is now the Unity Health Toronto program. But then with St. Michael's, they would like, don't waste a choice on that because you're not going to get in because it was a very heavily clinical focus that typically picked Ontario students. And so didn't listen to that, got into that program. Once I was in at St. Michael's program, actually, some of my preceptors would said to me like, "Oh, you're not gonna get a job here. Like, don't even bother."
mm,
Because back then too, they would hire more senior folks, not new graduates.
hmm.
And like still hustled my way and got into
Yeah.
an entry clinical position at the hospital, which grew to full time. And once I was there, like again, people saying like, don't go to the startup world, don't go to health technology. It's not stable. It's not a good career. Stay in clinical. But there was just this thing in me that wanted change and could see myself doing something different. And so taking that leap,
Hmm.
which there's no real risk. Folks are like nervous to
Yeah.
switch fields. You can always go back if you don't
Yeah.
like it. Go back to clinical, go back to community, go back to whichever area that you were initially in or plan to go into. There's no risk to it. So like trust your gut, try new things, talk to people, talk to folks in the field also to see if it's a good fit for you.
Hmm.
For example, I work fully remote and I love that. Some people need to go into person, so having those conversations with folks who are in the field to see if it's a good fit before you decide to make the leap can be beneficial. But yeah, don't listen to the haters. Do what you want to do.
Yeah. No, I think that's so valuable. And I think sometimes we get so overwhelmed that a career change is permanent. And
Yeah.
like we're working a lot of years, most of us. And, I'm like halfway, I think, ish. I'm 20 years in. So it's like there's still a lot of years ahead. And I think we often get overwhelmed by just like leaving something, changing, that it is permanent when it doesn't have to be. Like that's really shifting in the way people's careers like unfold these days. So yeah, I think
Mhm.
that's great advice that you gave about just like try it. You
Yeah.
can go back, you can go to a different area.
And map out like what you want your ideal work and like work-life balance to even look like.
Yeah.
So like I mentioned in my bio that like I really focus on like what I do outside of work because that's also a
Yeah.
huge part of who I am. And
Mm-hmm.
working in health technology gives me that space, that flexibility to do so.
Mm-hmm.
I work remote. I
Mm-hmm.
have unlimited time off and unlimited sick days, and I have a very flexible schedule. So this helps to play into my volunteer work, so hosting
Mm-hmm.
health workshops. And I recently did a volunteer initiative where I had to travel for days, and my work timings were all over the place. And my company was insanely supportive. They're like,
Right.
yes, go do this. I would not be able to do that in other areas. And so
Yeah.
imagining what you want your work-life balance to do, what is really important to you, and what would be fulfilling for you, that'll help dictate what you want your career choices or what your next step to is to be. And then you can apply to those areas and make it
Mm-hmm.
happen.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Well, I'm going to do our wrap up. So I hope everyone enjoyed hearing from Evita and you're feeling inspired maybe about health tech. If you do want to engage more with our community, please join either a free Facebook group or I also have one on LinkedIn, and I'll put those in the show notes. I have two exciting ways to help you as a health professional. If you are looking to make a career change into something new, we have a Beyond Clinical career transition program. And if you're already working outside of clinical, maybe you're newer to a different setting and you're looking for a community and membership, we also recently launched a network and membership for those working beyond clinical. And I'll link both of those in the show notes. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for listening. And you had such great insights. So really appreciate it. Yeah. All right. We'll wrap up there. Okay. Have a good rest of the week.
Thanks so much.
Bye.